Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the Ducks and Pucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Richard, and we have a great show for you this week. I hope everybody enjoyed Christmas and New Year's. That's when we recorded the last one. Our show is going to be a little bit different today. We're still going to talk about all the games the Ducks played, and the first segment, we'll have the second segment where we'll go into some of the roster moves, some fan questions, some All-Star news too as well about the Gulls and the Ducks, and then we'll finish off with the league news as well. So just to kind of open up this show, I know everybody knows kind of my circumstance and what happened this last week. Unfortunately, I went to the game in Vegas and found out that my mom had passed away while we were there and had to cut the trip short. Obviously, you guys all saw the posts and everything on social media, so I appreciate all the support from everybody on there, from the hockey world and from just friends and family in general. The only thing I really want to say in the beginning here, and we'll kind of talk a little bit about more of my mom throughout the show. It's kind of going to be like a tribute show for her. Is basically that everything that we've done as far as the website, the podcast, and everything is basically because of my mom. She bought tickets. They had like a mini plan back in '93, which included the first game that the Ducks played. So she did that and went to that first game, and then the rest is history. And been a Ducks fan ever since then. And when we talk about the games, I'll kind of get into more of what happened during that time. But I just want to, basically pay tribute to her, because without her, none of this would exist. And, I probably wouldn't have met Eddie. Probably wouldn't have met any of you out there that are listening, all the support you guys give me. So I appreciate it a lot. I just kind of wanted to open the show with that for a little bit. I'm doing fine. But wanted to, not put down and hit the pause button. As I said, Eddie talked about it. Everybody deals with things differently, but I feel because of the relationship of hockey and my mom and all that stuff that I wanted to keep on going. So I'm just glad that, able to do this. I'm glad that Eddie and I are part of the show and able to do everything. And thanks for all the support. Eddie, I thank you for the support too. I also want to wish you a happy birthday, even though the Ducks lost on your birthday.
Oh, thank you. And I just want to say I'm really sorry for your loss, and I'm grateful for everything your mom did too. Bringing you into this game and this sport. It's just one of those unfortunate things. It's sad, and it hurt me when I found out. Like, I wish I can just I was able to take your pain away. I mean, you're like my brother, and you're my best friend, and I owe everything I am accomplishing right now, and all my goals, and like some days where I just don't feel like getting up out of bed. Like, I owe it to you, because I know I have to do a job. I have to, write for Ducks and Pucks. I have to report on something, or I have to make a graphic, or just be part of this show. I mean, be part of the game. So, just want to say I'm sorry for your loss, and wherever your mom's up there listening, I love you, and you have a great son, and your memory is going to live on through him. So just wanted to say that, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it was something I knew it was coming. Get a little personal on the show. I don't that often, or outside of the world of hockey, but this is kind of related. So basically, she had an aneurysm back in 2009 and was in the hospital and nearly passed away then. And I was all she had, really. My parents are divorced, and my dad had already moved on and whatnot. So I took care of her for all those years. And, a lot of great memories, especially with the Ducks. I remember going to all the playoff games, for the 2002-2003 season when they lost, to the Devils in that Stanley Cup. And then, of course, all the happiness of 2007 when they won, obviously. So, there were highs and lows with her throughout this, this team and what had happened. But in the last couple of months, she had deteriorated, and it just was her time, and thankfully that she went peacefully. So that was the main thing. And I'll get a little bit more into what happened on our road trip when we went to Vegas. So we'll break down these games, the ones over here over the break. And then, like I said, we'll move into our normal segments as well. So Coming out of the Christmas break, Eddie, the Ducks look good. They played Vegas, and they ended up winning at home 4-3 in this game. They actually built a pretty good lead. They had a 4-1 advantage going into the third period. Vegas ended up getting a couple goals, one really late with 5.7 seconds left to make it a one-goal affair. But this overall was a decent game for the Ducks. They had never beaten Vegas at Honda Center, so for them to get that lead and come out and win was a good thing. We also saw the power play getting back on track. That's the one thing that's kind of been a good spot for the Ducks the last few weeks, as Henrique and Fowler scored on the extra man advantage. The shot count wasn't so great. The Ducks only had 18 in this game, but the way that they played, they kept Vegas at bay. They won the face-off battle. They won the special teams battle. And it was good. I mean, you like to see this. They had, Getzlaf being sick, coming back from the IR. You had Silverberg that was sick. And the Ducks, really, in a tough spot before the Christmas break. So for them to come out and win this game and turn in a pretty good performance overall, I was pretty satisfied with this outcome and contest, Eddie.
Oh, definitely. This game was pretty good. The Ducks did something different. They weren't allowing Vegas to have any time or space. Once Vegas got that puck, you had a Ducks player already within seconds jumping on him, not forcing him to make a bad play. And then the Ducks were doing something too, I mentioned different. They were getting in areas where the puck was going to be at. And then the puck would go right to them, and they were just playing that kind of hockey. They were physical, and they were just all up in their face. And they were moving that puck so well and so crisp and clean. It was just like perfect game. Like I don't know if Santa just gave us a game like that, for Christmas, but everything was going right. And I really liked, especially on the power play. Like they were moving that puck. They weren't overpassing. They were waiting for a great lane to open up. And once they found that lane, the shot was off. And it was just towards the net. Man, it paid dividends, and it was just one of those games that you love to see. Another game I regret not being at, but I have a bad record at going at games this season, so I guess I'm kind of glad I didn't go to this game. But I like what I saw. I like how they were up in Vegas's face and not letting them, have that time and just moving that puck so well and so great, and not overly passing. But once that lane opened up, our Subban, the best Subban that's playing right now, the goalie, he when he couldn't see, that puck was firing at the net. And I saw he got upset when his helmet came off. He tried to hit Carrick and started going at it. One thing I noticed too, what Getzlaf did, instead of just going and charging at him, he understood and knew that Subban's helmet was off, and if he would have reacted, all the team would have jumped on him. He kind of just was hugging Subban, and it was kind of like, hey, bro, just relax, just let it go, and kind of like being a peacemaker. And Getzlaf has a temper, so that was really good to see, just his class and professionalism, understanding that the goalie's mask is off, and potentially if there was a little scramble right there, he could have got hurt, but he just chose to take a different route and kind of be the bigger man at that time and kind of just, stop something that could have blew up. So that was good to see too.
Yeah, and I mean, the Ducks were doing what we had talked about. They were creating traffic in front of the net. Like you said, they were making better passes. They were playing good, sound defense. They were taking advantage on the power play. They also didn't let Vegas score when they had their power play chances. So this was the game that we talked about. Hey, this is how the Ducks need to play moving forward, as we talked about in the last show. And we'll talk about it in the middle of this show because we got a fan question related to it. How they're doing. But, the Ducks won this one at home, first time against Vegas. They were 2-7-1 lifetime against the Golden Knights. This is only the second time that they've beaten them since the Knights have come into the league. So, an uplifting win, especially you had, like we said, the rough road trip, players that are sick, you're getting them back. Overall, a pretty good game for the Ducks. And so you thought from this one that they would go in and they would play the Flyers also at home, that the momentum would carry over and this would be a game that the Ducks would probably win or whatnot. And this game was kind of interesting, this Flyers one, because the Ducks did score right away. Gabranson, kind of a seeing eye shot, scored in the first 35 seconds of the game. But then there was no more goals after that, at least by the Ducks. Philly got one back at the before the end of the first period, and the game would have to go all the way into overtime. But the thing that was kind of surprising to me in this game, Eddie, with Philly was, I mean, obviously the Ducks at least got a point, but I thought there would be more animosity in this game with Troy Terry getting knocked out, with Derek Grant getting knocked out, and the previous meetings with this team. There were some hard checks and there were some scrums here and there, but I was just surprised. I really thought this game would be a lot more physical, and it just seemed to be kind of really mellow to me. What did you think?
Yeah, I was a little upset that cue ball Obey guy. You know what? If I'm pronouncing his name wrong, I really don't give a damn. He's not important enough for me to actually go and learn his name again. So screw that guy. And I expected that too. And I was disappointed that he didn't answer the bell for what he's done. And he took an interference call in this game too. So obviously he didn't learn his lesson. He wasn't playing conservatively. He was just out there, taking runs at people again. But hey, you caused 2 injuries to our players. One was a knee on knee, which you didn't get suspended. Good job, George Pearls, little Princeton graduate over there. I'm glad they teach you great things over there to do your job. But I was just pissed off that no one dropped the gloves on him. Anyone, that's all I wanted. You hurt our players. You have to answer the bell, but no. Instead, they let him walk in and almost score, and they just kind of let him play his game. And I don't know what was up with the Ducks in this game. They didn't play too bad, but they didn't play well enough, and the physicality wasn't there. I don't know if they were just over this year already, or just a little before the brand new year game. Before they go to Vegas and party and stuff like that. But it was just, it wasn't a fun game to watch. And top it off, we lost our tournament that I played in this weekend, and we won silver. So it's like, okay, cool. I go skate back to go check the Ducks score real quick. I see a loss. I'm like, oh, man, come on. I checked, the penalties. Like, oh, please let this guy get his ass kicked. Especially injuring our players. And no, he didn't. Okay, whatever. Just going to chalk it up. And I guess we're 0-2 against the Flyers this season. And we have to wait till next season to get my revenge, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this game, like you said, if you are one of those fans that wants to watch scoring, this was not an exciting game for you. This was a goalie battle. This was Gibson and Elliott going at it. They both brought their A game. I really felt, though, that the Ducks could have won this game. They had a few different chances to do so. They had a 5-on-3 power play for over a minute. In the third period, they could not do it. The other thing that came up in this game, and I got mixed reactions from some of the posts that I did, was the Ryan Getzlaf drop pass came back to haunt us in this game. And it happened twice. One time was earlier in the game. It was like 1-on-3 or 1-on-4. He's in the corner, and he just throws it back to nobody, which wasn't really a big deal. He was the only one in the area. I would have liked to see him hold on to the puck and at least pin it against the boards and try to wait for some of the other guys to make their line change and come back over. But he ended up doing a no look behind the back pass to nobody, which, like I said, that one wasn't a big deal to me. We see players do that sometimes in those kind of situations. But the one in overtime really killed me. He made a great, fantastic move. He got in. He was on his backhand, only a few feet from the net, and instead he tries to pass to Jones, who's being defended, and it goes wide. And then, of course, the Flyers come back down, not right away, but they eventually come down and score a game-winning goal. But I mean, that overtime drop pass when he was right there in front of that just killed me. I was like, what are you doing? Like, you made such a great move to ward off the other Flyer player, and you're there. I know you're on your backhand. It's not your forehand, but I mean, he had a chance to at least get off a good shot right there and maybe win the game. So for me, those were the two moments that really frustrated me. Was the 5-on-3 power play when they could not convert. The Ducks were 0 for 4 on the power play in this game, but I really felt they should have scored in that time, and they could have had a 2-1 lead in the third and won this game. And then the overtime, Eddie, it's funny. We haven't really seen a lot of the drop pass stuff going on. We remember in the past when that seemed like what everybody was talking about on social media was the Ryan Getzlaf drop pass. And on this one, it reared its ugly head. And to me, it was at the worst time, Eddie, in that overtime.
Oh, yeah. It was terrible. You went to overtime thinking, okay, the Ducks can maybe get something out of this. Gibson was playing lights out. So was Elliott, too. But it just had that feel like, okay, maybe the Ducks can, get to a loose puck or get a deflection or Elliott can just make a mistake. But no, it didn't happen. Instead, you give it to, you let Kevin Hayes get a breakaway and score a goal. And he's like a way overpaid player for the Flyers, signed for $7.142 million and some change. That's for him. It's kind of a big overpayment, but I guess the Flyers fans got their money's worth on that game. And one thing to note too, and we're going to talk about penalty shots come next game, but Cam Fowler hit him kind of mid high, and if Hayes would have lost his balance, that could have been a penalty. That would have been a penalty shot. That play he did, and I bring that up because the next game we're going to talk about, there was a penalty shot that probably shouldn't have been. So I'm just showing you the right and wrong way, starting with the right way that it should have been called, but not. But this game just pissed me off, Mike. This game pisses me off more, not because of the injuries of last game, but going back last season. I'm going to mention this again, that little 10 a.m. game.
Yeah.
I'm still pissed off about that. I still want my revenge. And I said revenge earlier. I'm meaning that revenge on the Flyers. So I really hope next season we have a 9 a.m. game and the Ducks just beat them 7 or 8-1. I don't even care. Just destroy the Flyers.
Yeah, that's the thing I was thinking about too. Is they knocked out some of our players. Eddie and I have talked about the team being physical. We're not saying the Ducks go out there and injure their players, but I would have liked to see Delorier, get in a fight with someone, on that team, or a couple harder hits being given to the Flyers. I don't know. I just didn't really see a lot of animosity from the Ducks, at least in this game. And I think, like you said, going back to last game and then last season, they definitely had fuel for the fire, basically, and they just didn't really want to use it. So kind of a frustrating game, more mellow. Like I said, they had chances to win, they blew them. So the Ducks then went to Vegas to play the Golden Knights on New Year's Eve, which I actually, after the Philly game, my wife and I had the car loaded up and we drove straight to Vegas after the Philly game, and it was awesome. There was no traffic, and I'm not going to say we necessarily obeyed all the speed laws, but we got there in a pretty good time. We actually got to Vegas before midnight after that Flyer game. So you can do the math on the time that it took us to get there. But we got there pretty good. And no, we were not drinking and driving, which is stupid. So we did not at the game. We were really mellow, unlike normal. I usually have a couple drinks. But we got there real quick. My wife actually drove the whole way. It was that easy. But we got there and got settled in, and then we knew the Ducks were playing Vegas at noon on New Year's. So we didn't really have a plan. We were just going to go to that game and then kind of figure out what was going to happen after. We were just going to try and find a place to go watch the fireworks or whatnot and everything. And so I'll kind of go into a little bit of the situation with my mom, and then we'll talk about the game. But we were there, and we watched the first period in person. And then I had been given a heads up from the doctor that helps my mom at the assisted living, and some of the staff that she wasn't feeling well that morning, which wasn't really a big deal to me because I get that call a lot that she's not feeling well, and I go over there and I'll watch hockey games with her or watch movies with her and do different things. So I got the phone call and we went to the game. Like I said, saw the first period, and then of course I got the horrible news, the first period intermission, and I don't know. It's just a weird thing because, like I said, all of this is because of her and buying those tickets and making me become a fan in the beginning. And then, she passes away while I'm at a Ducks game. I mean, just the weirdness of it. So I wanted to stay at first and watch the rest of the game. That was kind of my first reaction. But then, of course, I was a sobbing mess, as anybody would be, and we ended up leaving. That's. I mean, what else would you do? I mean, you know what I mean? I couldn't sit there and try to even enjoy this game at that point. And we basically went back to the hotel, packed up, and drove back because I wasn't going to be around a bunch of drunk partying people that night. I mean, obviously, that ship had sailed with what had happened. So, but ended up coming back home, and then I found out what happened is we were listening to it in the car driving home a little bit, and then I went back and rewatched this game. So as far as the game goes, in the first period, the Ducks, they were getting smoked in this game, Eddie. It was really bad. They got outshot 22-5. They got that first goal by Holzer, which was really good. We thought, okay, we're going to get lucky and get one out of this. And then, of course, after that, Vegas ended up getting 2 more goals. And at the time, I apologize for this too, because I know some people saw me. I was really upset at that second goal that was scored at the end of the period, because I was there and I watched it live, and I made some posts on social media about it. I had thought the play was done, because where we were sitting was on the other side of the rink. So basically, we were more facing towards the goal. So it looked like to me the puck was covered, and then they didn't. And then, of course, it went in. So I made that post about, well, why didn't they blow the whistle? So, once I went home and rewatched the whole game, then I saw obviously that the puck was loose. So I know some of you, when I made that post, were like, oh, well, it was loose. Well, where I was sitting, I couldn't see it. And then even on the replay that they showed there, you couldn't really tell what had happened necessarily, at least from my vantage point. So that's why I made that post, in case people were like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, I was sitting there. I couldn't really see it that well. So that kind of irritated me, but I understand what happened on that play. And Eddie, we'll talk about that in a minute. Because there's a lot. Well, I guess we can talk about it now because there's a lot going on. But what did you think about that play? Like, it looked like the puck was down. It was behind Gibson. Gibson laid down. It was right behind him, and then of course Manson comes along and accidentally knocks it in. But then you see his reaction and Getzlaf's reaction. They're both red hot. It seemed like they thought the whistle was blown, but then apparently it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. If the puck's loose, okay, fair game. If the goalie didn't cover it, yeah, that's fair game, and go after it like that. My problem is, what the video does not show was the referee going to blow the whistle? Did his hand move to his mouth with the intention to blow the whistle? Because in the NHL rules, that means the play's dead. That play is dead. You don't have to necessarily hear the whistle, but once his intent is to go over there and blow the whistle, that means it's done. The play is done. And that's what the video didn't show. That's why I didn't know. So I don't know if Manson or Getzlaf saw the referee moving his mouth and went. But you know what? On the flip side, you play into the whistle, you hear the whistle. So that was one of those things where it's kind of 50-50. What will piss me off a little bit more is I've seen games where Ducks are playing an opponent and that whistle gets blown so quick. Like it's almost like when the player shoots it from the Ducks, that whistle is blown dead. It's like, okay, what the hell? That was Manson's fault, regardless if he hurt the whistle or not. Why are you going to push the puck into your own net? And I'm trying to sit here and justify an excuse for that. I don't believe anyone pushed his stick and made that puck cross the line. It seemed like when I saw the video, he just kind of just pushed the, maybe he assumed the play was dead. He just pushed it into the net to show the referee the puck, it was covered or whatnot. But that's just like kind of one of those rules. You don't push the puck in front of your own net. Just like another rule, you never, play a pass or make a pass in front of your goalie, which Branson did, and Knight scored on that too. I get how people can see one side and we're probably like getting mad and saying or blatantly disagreeing with you, Mike. They weren't at the game. They were watching the video, and the video probably was in slow motion and saw a different angle. My big issue was I want to see the referee's intention. Like, was he going up to blow that play dead? Because if he was doing that, that was a dead play. Like, before that whistle even blew, it was a dead play. So if he brought his hand up and then brought it down, I don't know the exact rules on that, but the rule states that if the play is not dead when you hear the whistle, the play is dead when the intent of the whistle is about to be blown. So maybe that's something that they have to address or anything else, but it's just an unfortunate play, and it's one of those things too where you think that, okay, if the ref blew the whistle and it wasn't a goal, can this game have been turned around? You don't know that. I don't know that. So it's really frustrating to watch, and it seems like the referees, there's no really accountability for their actions, and there's no really a set standard, even though you have rules in front of you. But one thing I would like to see is I would like to see the video. If he, if the referee had his hands down the whole time, he had the puck in his sights and wasn't attempting to blow the whistle, okay, fine. That's a good goal. That's Manson's fault. He'll have to hold himself accountable for his own actions. But you don't see that in the video. You just see, the aftermath and the scramble in front. So if for me to make my 100% determination on that play, I want to see what the ref's intent was.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that rule, and I never have been. I don't like this whole thing of when the ref forms the intent to blow the play dead, the play's dead, because the thing is how do you really know when the ref forms the intent? It's something internal in his brain, right? I mean, that's if you're going by that. I mean, if they put their hand up by their mouth, but then they don't. I don't know. I just think that's a super gray area. So I don't like the fact that the league does that. I think it's either you blow the whistle or you don't. I mean, that's just my take on it. That's something that bugs me is when they say, well, I was going to blow the whistle. Okay, well, I was not going to pass the puck. Or, well, I was going to. No, you did what you did or you didn't do what you did. So I don't like that whole intent of blowing the whistle rule. I think it's too gray. It's too subjective. It's something that I don't like at all. But given the way the rule is, I'm with you, Eddie, because if he formed the intent to blow the whistle when the puck was laying down behind Gibson, then that play should have been dead. That's the way the rule's written. If that was his intent, then, but either way, and we're kind of picking at little rules here and there. The big thing is the Ducks lost this game. They didn't play well. We're going to talk about the penalty shot though too. We're going to have another little gripe session here, so you got to bear with us, folks. And I know this one more of you will agree with us about the penalty shot, but like Eddie said, there was a lot of turnovers in this game. Henrique made a bad turnover. Goodbranson made a bad turnover. The Ducks, are allowing way too many chances for the Golden Knights. They gave up 43 shots in this game. It's ridiculous. The Ducks did have a couple power play chances, and they did not score. But the Golden Knights, they were just forecheck at will pretty much in the first period. The second period, the Ducks did slow them down, but then gave up a late goal. And then in the third, things went bad to worse with this penalty shot nonsense, which I went back and rewatched this too. And this part we've got to kind of break down because there was two different concerns on this play. I saw people saying that it wasn't a penalty by Manson, at least in the sense of that a penalty shot should have been awarded. That's part one. And then part two is whether or not Marchessault took the puck and went backwards, which you're not allowed to do in a shootout. The puck has to be going forward once the player touches it. So there's those two issues in there. This is my take, and then I'll let Eddie chime in. And if you guys disagree, more than welcome to comment, like we said, once we post all the show and all that. I don't feel that what Manson did warranted a penalty shot. And I think Eddie brought up a good point. You look at what Fowler did in that Flyer game, and if he would have knocked the puck out and they wouldn't have had that chance to shoot there in that last overtime session, then that probably would have been a penalty shot in that Philly game. But in this situation here, Manson comes down on Marchessault's stick and ends up knocking the puck away. I didn't even think it was a penalty at all. I thought it was a great defensive play, and obviously you saw Manson's reaction on his face when he's looking up at the screen. He's looking around at the refs like, "What did I do wrong?" And I'm with him. I'm like, "What did he do wrong?" I thought that was a great defensive play, in my opinion. As far as Marchessault going towards the net, he does go sideways at one point. I don't think the puck did go backwards. It's the way I looked at it and saw the replay. I watched it several times. I think they did get it right on the shootout. But for me, Eddie, my issue was, on the penalty shot, my issue was there shouldn't have even been a penalty shot to begin with.
Yeah, and that's why I pointed out Cam Fowler's slash last game, because I wanted to make this point. That was the appropriate time to call a penalty shot if it, took out Hayes from the play and him giving him a chance to score a goal. That wouldn't I wouldn't have been complaining. Yeah, it would have sucked, but I would have been like, all right, you know what, that was the right call to make. Manson's call, I think it was just it was crap. The refs were just blind. I don't know if they're pissed off at the Ducks for some reason, or if they were just too hungover for the game, they didn't care. They're just making calls that have nowhere, like you're betting on red and black. But it was a bad play, and yeah, I mean, I don't know if that play too would have made any difference, because after that first period or whatever, but it just wasn't a good one, and I don't agree with that at all. as far as the penalty shot itself, I think it was a good goal. Yeah, people saw him deke, and he dekes back, but that puck's still moving in a frontward motion. So it was a good goal. It was really good for him to kind of wait on Gibson, and he made Gibson bite first, and goes and it kind of exposes him and shoots and scores. A really good goal. It's unfortunate how it got set up, and there's no accountability or set standard for these officials, how they make their calls. And the Columbus coach Tortorella made some comments about that too, which we'll get into a little later. It's getting frustrating, and like I told you guys before, it's not just me watching the Ducks game. I'm watching all hockey, and it just seems just like the referees and the officials. It's just every year it's just getting worse and worse, and something has to change. There has to be some kind of standard, and if they get a play wrong, instead of the NHL just being like, "Oh, our bad, okay, whatever." Like, to have some accountability and have some disciplinary action for, them making these calls, so they can just be on their toes instead of just, if they make a bad call, if they screw up, nothing's going to happen to them. Yeah, they'll probably get talked to, lectured, or a little write-up, or a verbal warning that's written up, which no one really cares about. Like, just have them take some responsibility for the actions, because, yeah, I get it. It's just like one game, 2 games, but that adds up. And for some teams, those 2 points mean a lot come, playoff time. And it's just really frustrating. And it's just, I don't know what to say other than that. It's just frustrating. And not just as a Ducks fan, but as a hockey fan in general.
Yeah, the thing that my issue on the penalty shot call too was, did Manson go and hit his stick, preventing him to shoot? Yes, he did, but he hits his stick and then hits the puck away. So to me, that was all kind of one motion. I mean, yeah, he hits the stick and then he goes and deflects the puck away. But we see players do that all the time. I don't know why that would have been a penalty shot. Now, if he would have slashed his stick and say the stick would have broken, he couldn't even have gotten the shot off, and Manson never touched the puck, then I'm all for that. Or in the situation that you're talking about with the Flyer game at the end with Fowler, if you slash him on the hands or the stick and he's not able to get the shot off, that's not the case. He hits a stick, yes he does, but he still has a chance to shoot the puck, and then Manson knocks it away before he does get that shot chance. So to me, it's a good play. But like Eddie and I said, we're not saying that this changed the game. We're not sitting here crying saying the Ducks should have won this game, because they shouldn't have won this game. And obviously I was crying, but for other reasons. So the Ducks lost this game. The only other thing I thought was interesting was towards the end, Eddie, former Duck, Shea Theodore, and then Comtois get into a fight. That was kind of interesting. Really wasn't much of a fight. It's pretty much Comtois throwing punches and Theodore just standing there. I think Theodore threw like 1 or 2 punches. And don't get me wrong, I like Theodore, but he's not a fighter. So I just thought that was kind of interesting that the tempers flared over there. They were kind of going at it throughout the game, especially in the third period. What'd you think about them kind of going at it? Because, the Ducks Fight Club keeps on going too.
Mike, I loved it. You know that. Everyone knows I loved it. Comtois, I love him standing up for his team, dropping the gloves. Theodore, you have to win. You're sort of throwing your body around. Yeah, I know. You're trying to make a name, I guess, for yourself more over there in Vegas, but it was unnecessary at that point in time. And when you do things like that, you're asking for trouble, and he got it. And like I said, like you said too, I love Theodore. He's cool. Like he was a Ducks player. It sucks that we had to get rid of him. But he deserved those knuckle sandwiches, and Happy New Year, and here's a sandwich from one of our players. I guess what do gangs do? Like, they jump you in and they jump you out. So that was your official jumping out party, Theodore.
Yeah, this game had everything in it. I mean, like we said, we had just crazy weird goals. You had fights. You had penalty shot. Everything. The Ducks didn't play well. That's a simple thing. Way too many turnovers. That's what did them in, unfortunately, in this game. And so they dropped this one, and then they continued their short road trip. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you think the Vegas flu, using my bunny ears too, had a thing with this game, because it's close? You're like hours away from a brand new year. You're in Vegas. I don't know if how much their coach regulates what they do. I'm not implying that they're out getting drunk and whatever. I don't understand, but Like, do you think this Vegas flu could have had some kind of thing to do with the way they played, especially in that first period? That first period was bad.
I'm gonna just take the fifth and say no comment, Eddie. I don't know. I don't know exactly when they came in. I don't know if they came in that day or the day before. Like my better half and I did. I'm not really sure. But if they did come in the night before and do some stuff, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. But it's unfortunate because the other part of this, I'm glad you brought this up too, is Gibson really went off on this game. He was pissed off. He was not happy with the way that things went down, and he had his quote in there that he was talking about. At the end of this game, he said, quote, "It's frustrating when we go out there and we're not ready to play. It's a privilege to play in the National Hockey League, and it feels like some guys are taking it for granted." So I don't know if he's alluding to something like that, if some of the other players might have done something like that and just thought, hey, whatever. But when I was there, and I was only there for the first period, as you all know, with my mom's situation, the Ducks looked terrible in that first period. I mean, the ice was tilted completely where we were sitting. Vegas was, going, all towards the Ducks net. I mean, 22 shots in one period. I'm sorry, that's ridiculous. You shouldn't be giving up that many shots in one period in any part of the game, let alone the first period. I thought the Ducks were lucky to get out of it, down 2-1. I thought it would be 1-1, but then that late call, which I had to go back and review, and I got home. So I don't know if it was. I really hope it wasn't, but they did not play well in this game, period, unfortunately. So, but
yeah, and I guess those comments too seem kind of bad. Like I remember Jaguar calling out the Avalanche during their atrocious season because they were so focused on going to Vegas and their trip, and he called them out like, hey, these guys don't want to play anymore. Like, all they care about in the locker room is talking about Vegas, and they're not here to play a game. He got frustrated too. I do like Gibson saying those comments. Like, yeah, some people might take it the wrong way, or like, oh, he shouldn't be calling out his team, but he's the goaltender. He's the one that's playing the entire game. And then every goal that gets scored on, he's going to be blamed for it. And you know what? If no one's blaming him for the goals, I guarantee he's blaming himself. Every single goal that gets past him, he's blaming himself. Hell, if they score an empty net goal, he's probably blaming himself. Like, hey, I should have blocked and stopped a few of the goals that scored to make my team do this. It's just goalies don't like anything going in their net, period. So for him to say that, I'm not sure what went on in Vegas. I don't know. I wasn't there. I wish I were with the team. They probably wouldn't have shown up the next game. I don't know. But for him to say that, obviously something happened where he's frustrated or he doesn't like any of the attitudes. And I'm glad he went and spoke up, and that just shows him, kind of a leadership role. Like, sometimes a leader is not going to tell you everything you're doing good. Sometimes a leader is going to tell you what you're doing wrong and call you out. And it's up to you as a man, as a professional hockey player, to be like, you know what, you're right. Yeah, well, you don't like to say it. Trust me. I've been in situations where teammates called me out, screaming and cussing at me, and I start cussing back, and it took me a while to be like, you know what, dude, no, you're right. I was acting like a bitch about that. I shouldn't have did X, Y, and Z. It's my fault. Like, I take that personal accountability, which is hard for a lot of people. So I'm really glad that he went out there and made those comments, and hopefully that, moving forward, if they're put in a situation, whatever happened over there, that they will fix that and they'll just grow and mature as adults and professional hockey players.
Well, and it's interesting you make those comments because then, in this short road trip, they then went to Arizona, and it seemed like the Ducks played better. They got scored on first, but then Silverberg scored, and then Max Jones had a nice goal in this one. And the Ducks seemed to respond well in this game. They played a good 40 minutes. Probably, obviously they heard what Gibson said and they pulled it together, but then the third period they reverted back, and now the bad period was the third period where it was the first period in that Vegas game. So they basically stood around in the beginning of the third period. They gave up an early goal just 26 seconds in, and then they had two scored in a minute against each other. And I'm really curious what Gibson had to say after this game, Eddie. I mean, as you know, because you play goalie, you're still going to take it personal whether or not your team's playing defense in front of you or not. You don't want the puck to go into the net being a goaltender. I mean, that's your job, obviously, like, duh. But you're going to be more frustrated if you're not getting help. And I think in this third period, I was really disappointed in the fact, not that they lost so much, they had played a great 40 minutes, but the lack of defensive zone coverage and these goals in the third period, man, it was just heartbreaking, and I knew it was your birthday too, so I really, after the first two periods, I thought, oh man, they're going to get a W, they're going to get a win for you, and then in the third period, they straight up lay an egg. I mean, I just don't understand what was going on, because they seemed to respond and play well, but only for the first two periods, Eddie.
Yeah, and I guess that's an average Ducks problem. It's been for the last few seasons. They won't play a full game. Yeah, I get it. Getzlaf said it's impossible for every player to skate and play that complete game each and every game. Yeah, I get that. I understand, but play the game. Keep your feet moving. Don't let them get in those areas. You let Arizona just be in front of the net the whole time. I think one of the goals that was scored, Manson sitting there looking at the player, scores a goal. I'm like, dude, hit him. I don't care if you take a penalty. Let them know it's not okay to hang around in front of the net. And if they do, let them know there's going to be some consequence and some punishment. You're going to body him up and take away that time and space. Where was the Ducks play, that style of play when they first played Vegas at Honda Center when they got their first win against Vegas? They did not let that team get any space at all. And, with Arizona, that third period, they made them look like a junior team. It seemed like Arizona was controlling everything. The Ducks were chasing. They weren't really playing position. They were out of position. They seemed frustrated, and they just took it. Like, I was watching half the game, and I was like, okay, cool. A birthday win, that'd be cool. I didn't really do anything last night. I don't really do anything on my birthday. So I just was relaxing, watching the game, and then all of a sudden, third period comes, like, oh, come on, you got to be kidding me. And it's no one's fault but the Ducks. Max Jones did score, so I mean that was a plus. Seeing him get in front of the net and seeing him score, but other than that, it was just frustrating to watch. And I mean, especially my birthday. I mean, it's not anything special; it's just my birthday. Like, I'm not make a big deal about it. It's whatever to me. But I did like seeing Max Jones get in front of the net. He got in front of the net a few times, and the way he skated with the puck, the first time when he didn't score, that was like a dangerous area, because you had players that could just light him up, and his focus was on the goalie and scoring a goal. So I have to give him credit for that, and I really hope he jumps out of his shell and starts producing more like he's projected to be. He'd be a dangerous player. Look at Vancouver's Virtanen, whatever his name is. He's a power forward too, and he wasn't panning out, but this season he's actually playing really well. So hopefully we can get that out of Max Jones.
Yeah, and I mean this pretty much leads into the the middle segment, talking about like what's going on with this team. As far as all these losses, like we said, they started off that first game against Vegas and played very well, and really only gave it some late goals in that. And then the rest of these games, I think one of the issues that Eddie touched on is the fact that they're not playing complete games, and we saw that in this game against Arizona. It was the third period in the game. When they were playing in Vegas, that first period, they really got behind the eight ball there. I mean, like I said, they were lucky to be down a goal. And then when they were playing Philly, it seemed like the second period, and that one they were having issues as Philly was controlling the play more so in that part of the game. So weird. It was different periods where they had issues in these three losses in a row here. The first, the second, and the third, different games where you remember before in seasons in past, it was always the second period. The Ducks were playing great in the first, they're playing great in the third, but they would, those terrible second periods we always joked about. So here, that's one issue, not playing a complete game. I think the other issue that one of the fan questions we had, they asked about the offense on this team and what's going on. We had Jonathan, he asked, what do you think the problem is with our scoring? Every game we seem to have a lot of chances but can't convert. And I think part of this is what you talked about, is Jones getting in front of the net and doing those things. He did a lot of that in Arizona, and that was good. And I think that's the issue, is the Ducks aren't able to finish a lot this season. Also, they're not having Derek Grant, right? He was out. To me, he was a big boost, especially on the power play. The Ducks still are getting some goals on the power play, as we talked about, but he was huge, especially on the fourth line too, going in there and mixing it up. So I think that's some of the issue, is not being able to get in front of the net and get in the opposing goalie's face to get those chances. But then on the flip side of that, there are games where you have seen them do that, but then they just don't convert. They either whiff on the chance, make a last minute pass when they shouldn't, or they just miss the mark. So I think it's kind of a combination of those things with the injuries going on, trying to shuffle the lines a little bit, which they didn't really do these last couple games. I was kind of surprised. I thought maybe Dallas Aikens was going to mix it up a little bit, and he really didn't. He just kind of went with the same lineup for most of this past week, which was a little strange. But that's my take on it, Eddie. I think they, could have maybe shooken things up a little bit more, which they didn't. They kept the same lines, and they're just not really able to just cash in at the right moments. That just seems to be the thing with this team.
Yeah, they're ranked number 30th in AHL in goals fired with 102, tied with New Jersey that has 102. Just below the Red Wings at 31, they have 89, so it could be worse. So if you're hating the Ducks right now, just be glad you aren't a Red Wings fan, because they're doing a hell of a lot worse. But I think another factor it is for the Ducks is, yeah, I get it, and this is make me sound like a hypocrite to me telling me to shoot, because the Ducks had that problem before. But I think some of their shots, and they're trying so hard, they're gripping their sticks a little too tight, and they're throwing shots at goalies that they have no business throwing those shots at goalies. Like when you have a goalie squared up at you, are you taking a wrist shot from above the circles? 9 times out of 10, that goalie's going to get it. So when you take shots like that, all you're doing is just building the goalie's confidence. So after the first period, you're out shooting teams, which I love, and I like that the Ducks have transitioned from not shooting enough to shooting more. That's a big improvement. I love seeing that improvement, but now it's time to kind of fix that game and take some better shots and not just shoot at those wide angles when the goalie's squared to you, or shoot above the circle or wrist shot. If you blast a slap shot, hell, just throw a fast one. But when you're giving that goalie those many shots and he's blocking them, and you're getting him warmed up and he's tracking all the shots, he gets in a rhythm and he gets going. And if any of you follow hockey for a long time, you know that teams can write out a hot goalie and they can change the game. I mean, look at Gibson last season when the Ducks started off terrible, like there were and injuries. I mean, and Gibson would just started getting hot each game he played, each period. You could see the fire building up, and he was just unstoppable. Hence why he made the All-Star game, and that's why the Ducks weren't the Red Wings last season. So I think the Ducks need to focus more on getting more shots on net, of course, but making them quality shots, making the goalie move laterally, making him make mistakes. When you get traffic in front of the net and you get that second and third whack, make that goalie frustrated. Trust me, when a goalie gets a player shooting 2, 3, 4 times in a row, that frustrates the hell out of them. And they're like, okay, what's going on with the team? Now you're throwing his mind off, and he's focused on, okay, why the hell is the team letting them get 4 or 5 shots? How come this guy's watching them score on me and not hitting him out of the way? Like, you have to get in those goalies' heads, and you really have to get him moving. You can't just expect to throw those nice little cutesy shots and right into his chest, like you're playing tummy sticks or whatever the hell you're doing, and expect him not to catch fire. But I think that was probably another contributing factor on why the Ducks have that lack of scoring too this season.
Yeah, and there's some other issues too that have come up with this team lately. I mean, Ricard Raquel has been out. They just put him on the IR, so that they didn't have him for this week, which killed the team a little bit. I mean, he had 10 goals on the season. I mean, he's not killing it, but he's got 10. Also, Ryan Getzlaf has cooled off. He's got 10 goals, but he hasn't been producing as much as he was earlier in the season. And another thing you have Silverberg, who was named to his first All-Star game. Congrats on him. But he's leading your team with 15 goals. I mean, I'm not saying that Silverberg isn't elite, but I mean, he's leading your team, and there's not a whole lot of other people doing a whole lot. I mean, Henrique's got 12 goals, but remember, he cooled off too. So you have Henrique and Getzlaf that slowed down. Of course, Getzlaf being sick didn't help. He was out for a few games. Raquel's been out for a little bit now. He's on the IR, but he should be back soon, and Derek Grant as well. So you have a depleted lineup, as we talked about. That's why we called them the Anaheim Goals on the last podcast show, because that's what it was. So we have so many young players in the lineup. It was like half of the skaters were basically from San Diego last season, almost about. So I think that's part of the problem too. Is the Ducks don't have a lot of elite talent on this roster, right? And some of them are gone. I mean, Kessler's obviously out with injuries throughout the season. We talked about Eves being gone. And like I said, you've got some players that are either slumping or hurt. A couple on the IR, not doing as well. So you have Silverberg as your one guy leading the show here. The Ducks don't have a lot of big name players on this team at the moment that are those kind of guys. They're not the Taylor Hall type players, right? And we already knew that the Ducks weren't going to get him. So, and we'll talk about this more in other shows, but we'll talk about the trade deadline. We may just do one for it specifically and how the Ducks probably going to have to be sellers. We're also going to have to talk about the expansion draft and how that's going to affect things. But there's not a number one all-star player on this team. Outside of Silverberg, obviously he got named to that, but I mean he's the one leading your team, and that's it. I mean, it's like, wait a second, there's just not a whole depth of elite talent on this team, or people are struggling and hurt and whatnot. So it's kind of a combination of things. I think that's part of it that's missing for this team, and it's unfortunate because given what the Ducks do with the salary cap and the trade deadline, Bob Murray doesn't usually make big moves. Expansion drafts on the horizon. I won't go into too much depth on this, but Eddie, I mean, you just don't have a lot of elite depth offensively on this team.
No, not at all. You have to have some kind of elite players to actually go and compete. I think the only one we have is John Gibson. I think Silverberg is getting there. He's not quite elite, but he's not those big name players that are going to put up those numbers and carry a team on their back. He's not the Taylor Hall. He's not the Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, even Mikko Rantanen kind of player. You even have you have one elite player for the LA Kings. Arguably, Drew Doughty is probably their only elite player, and look at them too. You have to have a combination of these players, and you have to build them up from drafts. Do we have some elite players that can reach that level that are playing right now that are still rookies or are in the pipeline that are prospects that can come up and do that? Sure, we do. We definitely do, and we have no idea how they're going to pan out. I like how he's throwing in all these youth players and throwing them in the fire. Like, look, you're going to play in the National Hockey League, the fastest game in the world, the best league in the world, and you're going to learn the game from here on out. You're going to learn our brand new system. Actually, no. I mean, learning the system because they had the system in San Diego, a lot of them. I think in 2 or 3 years, this team's going to be ready to compete for a cup. They're going to have those young players that can step up and be those Getzlaffs and Perrys back in their rookie days that can just keep evolving and be those superstar players that we desperately need. And then once we have those teams set, Murray or whoever's the GM, if we don't have Murray, can actually go out and have players that want to come to Anaheim and play for a team like that. Right now, we just don't have that, and we don't know who's going to pan out and who's not. We don't know if Sam Steele is going to be, he can just start evolving better and he can start playing well and he can just develop great and be our number one superstar of the league. You should never know. So it's one of those waiting games. I know a lot of fans are frustrated. We hear the comments, we see them. We appreciate those that don't consistently bash the team, but sit there and try to, kind of give your opinion and offer, kind of a chat back and forth about the team and what's going to go on. But right now, we just don't know. It's kind of a waiting game, and I mean, we just have to hope for the best. Silverberg made the All-Star our team, and he deserves it. I know every player from every team gets selected, but I think if that weren't the case, I think Silverberg still deserves that honor. He's been playing some great hockey, and he's been pretty much like one of the lights for the Ducks this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think he deserves it too. I've had some people ask me and question me about it, and they're like, well, he's got 15 goals and yada yada yada. Yeah, he doesn't have 20 or 30 goals, but I mean, he's been playing really good for this team. He's been consistent. He's got 28 points in 40 games. And he's got 6 power play points, and he's got a couple shorthanded goals as well. And he's all around playing good in general. So Yeah, and then you got to add that in there as well. Yeah, he's still playing his good defensive game, even without having Ryan Kessler center his line, which he was so used to having for the last couple seasons. So I'm totally fine with that. It sounds good to me with him making it. There's also a chance that Ryan Getzlaf can get in there too. They have the last man in or last men in vote. If you want to vote for him or there's other options for the other divisions as well. You can go to NHL.com/all-star /all-star-ballot, and you can go on there and look it up, or you can just Google last man in vote NHL All-Star Game, and you'll find it. So you can vote for him. I don't think he'll get in, just knowing the way, his name is not Sidney Crosby, so he's not going to, he's not, one of those type big name players. I mean, he is in our team, but, is around the league. I don't know if he'll get in. I'm going to try and vote as many times as I can every day and punch the damn ticket as much as I can, but I don't think he'll make it. Also, for the goals, they had a couple players make it as well to the AHL. Stolars and Weidman are in there as well. A little disappointed, Weidman got called up. I thought maybe he would play in this game against Arizona, and he didn't, so that was a little frustrating as well. But he's definitely been playing well down there, and I think that he should get a chance with the Ducks more so this season. And another player, if you've been following him, he's been taking the expressway from San Diego to Orange County, has been Daniel Sprung. I know I got a lot of fan questions about him. People are wondering why he keeps going up and down, and then there's no waivers and all this nonsense. I'll try to explain as best I can real quickly here and not bore you to death. But he was called up, if you remember, to play in that game against the New York Rangers, and the Ducks didn't have enough players to field a team. If you remember in that game, Holzer had to play on offense, which we all know how scary that was. But he had to come up as an emergency recall, basically, and get sent back down. That's the way the rules are. I posted the rules on Facebook. So if anybody has questions about that, you can message me. I can send it to you. But basically, because the Ducks could not field a team, they called him up and sent him back down. The emergency recall is a good thing because he doesn't have to go through waivers. He just comes up and goes back down, no problem. So then he came up again, obviously, and then had to go back down again as they announced that him, Weidman, and Carrick were sent down. So some people are again like, well, now it's not the emergency thing. Why is he going down? Well, the way it works is when the player clears waivers the first time through the season, then there's a 10-game, 30-day rule. So basically a player can play up to 10 games or 30 days with a team throughout the season and not have to clear waivers again. So once you hit that 10th game or that 30th day, then you have to go through waivers again. And he hasn't gone through that yet. He hasn't played. So basically, you want to try to only play 9 games or spend 29 days with the club throughout that period. So he's in that exemption window right now still. And the emergency recall helps out because that has its own separate 10-game, 30-day thing. So that doesn't affect where he's at now. It doesn't count as time towards that. It's a whole separate thing. I know it's all complicated. The CBA is a great thing. If you ever want to read it when you're bored, bust out a cup of coffee because it's a sleeper. But that's how it works. And I know I've explained it on the show before, and it's very, very complicated. But just understand that he has a window where he can go back down, and he's still in that window. So that's why they're able to do that. It's just a weird rule that they have in the NHL. But that's pretty much all the stuff on the Ducks and what's going on with them. Kind of our discussions, some fan questions and whatnot. We kind of covered everything. The last segment is we'll talk about the league news, which also brings up Corey Perry in there as well. So I'll let Eddie break it down. I'll chime in, but we've got plenty of league news to cover here in our third and last segment.
Oh, definitely. Thank you. Just before I get into the league news, Mike, I want to tell you I'm playing hockey this weekend, and the first goal I score is going to be dedicated to your mother. And when I score that goal, I'm going to kiss my hand and point up to the sky in her memory. So I just want to let you know that even though I didn't know her and I wish I got to meet her, she's still in my thoughts, my prayers, and she's still in my heart. And I want to do that just out of kindness, and because I just want to let her know wherever she's watching that. The influence that you have on me and just all the inspiration that you give me and you just kind of help me out through a lot of things. So I just want to, wherever she's listening to, thank her for that. I really can't wait to score that goal and just kind of point to her And Tyler, thank you for raising such a great man.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, some people were surprised. Once everything went down, they were like, "You're still doing a podcast? You're still doing your articles and stuff?" And I said, "Yeah." I go, everybody deals with things differently, and for me, this is the best way for me to do it, is to continue doing the show, continue doing the articles, continue posting stuff. Yeah, the night of New Year's was not a good night for me. I'm sure a lot of you out there had a fun time, and I'm glad if you did. For me, it was obviously one of the worst nights, or is the worst night I've had so far. But for me, because of the connection and all the stuff doing that with her, I know she would want me to continue to go on and whatnot. So that's why I did this. None of you out there really gave me a hard time. Just some people were I don't know, they were just kind of surprised. They were like, wow, you're still pushing forward. And I hope that, I can kind of serve as maybe a model for anyone else out there, that when you're dealing with something that, you push forward, you may need some time off. Like I'm taking some time off from my real job. I'm not gonna lie. I gotta have some time and everything. But for me, this is my therapy, is doing the articles and the show and still covering all this stuff, especially because, she was a big Ducks fan. Her favorite player was Guy Bear back in the Mighty Ducks days. And then she liked Teemu Selanne in that phase. And then after he retired, she really didn't have a favorite player. But I appreciate it, Eddie, and I appreciate all the thoughts from everybody. I'm fine. I mean, I've dealing with it, day by day. I'm not 100%, obviously, because it's only been a few days, but I got to push forward. It's going to help me heal faster, and I appreciate you doing that. So let's get with the league news and let's break it down, my man.
Well, one last thing. Hey, you're my brother in this life and the next. So let's get to the league news now. World Juniors, we had a controversy or a scandal. The team Russia was upset that Team Canada's captain Barrett Hayton, he didn't remove his helmet during the anthem, and they felt really offended by that. The captain and 3 of the other Russian players didn't even shake his hand. The captain actually pointed to his helmet, and it's like, okay, what's going on? With this, he's a young kid. He made a mistake. I think he was so focused on what happened in the game, he didn't even think about taking his helmet off. He came out and apologized for it and took responsibility for it. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where he'll be infamous for it. I don't think it was malicious. I don't think any of these players mean to do that and disrespect anyone else's country, especially when they're all competitors and they all do the same thing, training and moving up and getting to where they are. No, it's one of those things where you just kind of have to, he had a brain fart and you move from there. As far as the other World Juniors news, we had the Ducks' first-round pick, Trevor Zegras. He had 9 assists in the tournament. That ranked him tied for 4th overall, just behind Doug Waite with 14, Derek Stefan with 10, and Phil Kessel with 10. That's some good company to be in. He's also, I think Mike Madonna he was tied with in 1989 with 9, and a few other players. And I don't know if you guys watched it. I would go back and watch it. That kid's passes were freaking insane. Yeah, Ducks fans, we don't want someone that passes. No, you want someone that passes like this. It was just so amazing. Some of the passes he's making, Mike. I don't know. Oh, yeah, Mike, you saw some of those. What you think about those? They were just insane.
Yeah, I watched as many of those games I could. I think I caught 3 out of 4. I can't remember. But, yeah, I watched just the way he was playing. Some of those passes were amazing. It's unfortunate that they got eliminated by Finland, 1-0 and got knocked out. So definitely we got to keep our eye on him and see how he progresses. Like we talked about, trying to help this team. We're going to have to probably develop within, and he's definitely one to watch down the road. The other thing that was good though is that the women's under 18 team did win gold. They beat Canada 2-1 in overtime. So even though the USA team did get knocked out in the World Juniors, we did have the women's under 18 team win gold. So that was one good thing from this last week, though. At least Eddie is them pulling it out, and against Canada. Anytime US can beat Canada, that's the big rivalry. So that was a good thing too.
Oh, exactly. I saw a few comments of some people knocking women's hockey. Like, if you're one of those people, you have some issues. It's like hockey's hockey, and you can't respect how hard these women train and what they go through. And yeah, and you saw that, some people think that below. Hell no, they're hockey players and they work their asses off way more than you. So if you're gonna sit there on Twitter and start judging these women because they're women hockey players, and you're a piece of shit, and you probably should just jump on a different sport. Maybe badminton might be your sport. Just be careful of the shuttlecock hitting you in the face. Let's move on from that. The shuttlecock's actually a little thing that they hit back and forth, aka it's also called the birdie. I played badminton before. This is a different podcast. Okay, Kovalchuk news. He couldn't accept the deal for the KHL. Apparently, he had a multi-million-dollar deal, but he decided to sign with the Montreal Canadiens, a league minimum deal, and then a two-way contract. He gets sent down to the AHL. He'll make $70,000, $700,000 at the NHL level. I think this is a good thing for the Montreal Canadiens. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but this is kind of those things where you kind of invest your money to make something back. They signed someone for free at the league minimum. I'm pretty sure they're going to try to kind of advertise him, put him on the power play, try to get his game back. Come trade deadline, hey, they can probably get something for him, but it's not a bad investment for a guy like this. And I think it's going to work out for both of them. Kovalchuk gets to display his stuff and gets to play. Montreal gets to advertise and have other teams window shop on their player. Come to trade deadline, they know teams are going to overpay for some depth down in the middle or down in the bottom six. So I think this is going to be a win-win for everyone. He's going to be eventually, in my opinion, be traded to a contending team, and then the Canadiens are going to get some, something back for that. Move on to Buffalo. Buffalo made a trade they sent Marco Scandella, the defenseman, to the Montreal Canadiens for a 4th-round pick, and they traded that 4th-round pick to the Calgary Flames in exchange for Michael Furlik. Also, Evan Rodriguez has requested a trade out of Buffalo. So that's a third player, Ristolainen, Bogosian. I don't know what's going on in Buffalo or what they're doing, and everyone's requesting a trade, but I don't know if the GM and the coach, Jack Eichel, is making life difficult, but that's just kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice. Obviously, it has something to do with them. Let's move on to the New Jersey Devils. Apparently, it's been reported by a few other outlets, including NHL trade rumors, about PK Subban has requested a trade. I guess apparently he doesn't want to be part of the rebuild in New Jersey. This is unfortunate, Mike, and I love PK for everything he does for the community, the millions of dollars he spent on the Children's Hospital in Montreal and Nashville, how he brought the inner city youth and cops together in suites and have them kind of just mingle and show each other that same respect. But I think he's more of a player that plays for his name on the back of the jersey than the logo on the front. Look at Christmas Day. Him and his wife proposed to him, even though he proposed to her first. They made national news headlines. I love the guy, everything he's done. I just think he's not a team player, and I think he really needs to check himself and see what's going on. Like, it's unfortunate a player his caliber and all the charities that he's done just to play that selfishly and just want those headlines. And it seems like he wants too much attention for himself. Like, bro, this is hockey, and any sport you play or anything you're part of, whatever logo or crest you have on your chest, that should be the most important thing in your life, and not your name or getting YouTube hits or trying to get your name in the paper, which you obviously done. I don't know if you want to chime in on that.
Yeah,
Mike.
I mean, it's just weird, these situations. I don't know what's really going on in Buffalo, first off. I don't know why they're doing all this stuff and players are wanting out. I don't really get that. There must be something going on that more so that we don't know about. As far as the Subban thing, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think he is a really great player, but I think you're right. I think his ego's kind of gotten to him a little bit. Maybe New Jersey's not performing obviously as well as he expected the team to be doing, so maybe he's looking to, hey, they traded Taylor Hall, why don't you unload me too? I mean, I don't know, because they're just not doing as well. I think that maybe that's part of the issue too. And yeah, he seems to be kind of concerned more with his fandom a little bit more than the team. So kind of unfortunate. I'm really curious to see what happens and see if he gets moved at the trade deadline. We're talking about trades too. I forgot to mention in the second segment, the Ducks did make a trade this past week and a half or so. It was a minor one. It was more of minor league stuff, but they did send Patrick Seeloff to Tampa Bay, and they brought back Chris Mueller, as you know, that played on the Gulls back in the 2015 and 16 season. So they brought him back and added some more depth for the offense down in San Diego. So talking about that offensive question earlier in the show, there's that. It's just a minor league deal, nothing big, but I wanted to make sure to mention that because I had forgotten that during that segment. But yeah, I want to keep an eye on what's going to happen in New Jersey for sure come the trade deadline, Eddie.
Definitely. And yeah, just to mention too, Chris Mueller actually has 23 points in 31 games, 11 goals, 12 assists. So he makes him the number one point scorer for the goals, even though he didn't earn all those points for the goals. Only behind 19 points, Chris Weidman and Daniel Sprung. So moving on with other league news, let's go to Carolina. Unfortunately, Eric Halla's unborn daughter passed away. He posted on his Instagram with RIP on his hockey sticks and the date. My condolences to him and his significant other. It's really unfortunate for him, and he has my thoughts and definitely my prayers going his way. He did score a goal the first game after that incident, and he did the whole. He kissed his hand, pointed to the sky. So hopefully that helped him heal a little bit. Justin Williams too is expected to re-sign with the team, so which everyone expected. He wanted to take some time off. If you guys don't remember when Niedermeyer did that too, so it's just one of those things when older players, they just need that little bit more extra break. So yeah, moving on, let's go to the Spit and Chicklets podcast. I wanted to talk about. Brian Burke was on it. He talked about Corey Perry and Ryan Getzlaf as to why he sent them down. When he had Sergei Fedorov, he said that Fedorov wasn't in the same page as what they were trying to do, and he was more concerned about other things other than getting wins. He didn't say that he was talking crap about Fedorov at all. He had nothing but good things to say about that, but he said that he wasn't the leader, apparently, what they needed, and he didn't want to have Getzlaf and Perry kind of being in that situation and learning from that voice. So when he brought them back up, it after the trade with Fedorov, it was different because you had leaders like Slonny and Niedermeyer where they can actually build up and kind of set them for success and kind of to be, Getzlaf, especially the leader he is today, because he had some great learning. Mike, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. I hadn't heard that before, but I think it is important, especially with the team now trying to pick, who's going to replace Getzlaf down the road, right? I mean, that's something the Ducks they're going to have to look at, right? Corey Perry's gone. Of course, Teemu Solani's retired. We don't know if Ryan Kessler's going to be able to come back next season. So those comments, it's interesting that's how Fedorov was, and it's unfortunate that was the situation back then. But I think it did not affect Getzlaf at all. With Perry, I don't really know. And unfortunately, Perry came back in the news this week. After I came home from the Vegas game on New Year's and obviously didn't do anything, I still watched the Winter Classic. And God, Eddie, I just got frustrated with Perry. He made that play and he did that hit to the head, and he ended up getting suspended for 5 games. They announced, but man, just frustrating. So I don't know. That part kind of ties in a little bit to the leadership thing. I don't know if he's necessarily a leader. And I mean, I don't think Fedorov had any impact on him, but what happened in that game at the Winter Classic was just it's kind of unfortunate. I don't think there was intent behind it, but he made the head contact. He did extend the arm, and he got knocked out. And I know you want to weigh in on that too, because I got a lot of comments from people this last week, for and against Perry.
Oh yeah. Okay. I know I'm probably not going to hit the popularity button here, but I never thought of Perry as an actual leader. I think when he was giving that it was more of his play style, not his ability to lead. I don't know what goes on in the locker room. Maybe it's different. I don't see that part. It's just some of the antics that he's done throughout his career. I never thought that he should have had that regardless, he played 38 seconds in the Winter Classic. I think it's one of the best traditions in hockey so far, to play in the Winter Classic. And if it was Perry's first offense, I'm like, okay, I get it. You know, he didn't mean to, but I mean, Perry has a long history of this, and unfortunately, I think the worst part about it, minus the 5-game suspension that he has gotten, is he had that walk of shame, and that turned out everyone making things about it. But I mean, Perry, you're a veteran in the league, and you know the do's and don'ts. And I don't know, 38 seconds into the game, and you come on, throw an elbow like that. The league made the right call. The refs made the right call. It's unfortunate. I wanted to see Perry stay in that game, especially being a former Duck. And even if I wasn't his biggest fan, I still appreciate it and like everything he's done for the Ducks. So it was bad to see him get kicked out just 38 seconds into the game. He's suspended for 5 games, therefore he's not going to be at Honda Center next week. So if you want to see Perry skate again at Honda Center against the Ducks, it's going to be April 1st. And that's not an April Fool's joke. April 1st, 2020, and hopefully he learns his lesson and he just plays hockey. He's a great player. He has a great shot, and he still has a few more years and some gas in the tank. Speaking of Dallas, too, I want to touch bases on the former Dallas coach, Jim Montgomery. He's checked into an alcohol facility for treatment. Mike, you were right. It was an alcohol-related incident. I initially thought it was fraternization, but he has some alcohol issues that he needs to deal with. And, I respect him for, self-initiating that and seeking the help. And he has support from his family. Any abuse, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, nicotine abuse, it's a hard cycle to break. I was in there in Colorado right after the military where I was just kind of lost, and the thing I was turning into alcohol, and it took a lot of time and support to actually rewire my brain to not abuse it. Recently too, I took a 28 days of not drinking just because I wanted to just prove to myself that alcohol is not influencing my decision, and I can actually live life without being able to drink. I didn't need it to function. So I wish him all the best. I'm going to move forward too, unless you have something to say.
No,
Mike,
we can wrap it up with the last part. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I have a few more things for league news, so I'll wrap it up pretty quickly. Next year's Winter Classic is going to be against Minnesota Wild are going to host it at Target Field. Their opponents are to be announced, but the Blues, Hawks, Jets, and Avs are in the mix. I wouldn't be surprised if the Hawks aren't going to play, because God forbid you go a few years without the Hawks being in an outdoor game. We're going to move forward to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Coach Tortorella has been fined $20,000 for his comments against the game against the Blackhawks. There was some controversy with the whistle blew, in overtime, and the refs let the clock go down. They didn't put time back on. The Blue Jackets ended up scoring a goal, but it was called off because the time expired. And if that time would have been on, it would have been a goal. They would have won. They go to a shootout. They lose their goalie from injury in the shootout. And Tortorella just kind of said it was a series of events that led up to that one bad call. He made some comments to the referees. He got fined $20,000 if he says anything, anymore. He was on probation till December 29th. If he said anything about it, he'd get fined another $25,000. So that's unfortunate for him. And to kind of end this league news with some, I guess, funny news, something a little more upbeat. Jordan Bennington of the St. Louis Blues called out Justin Bieber to participate in a shootout, telling Justin Bieber if he'll give him 10 shootout breakaway attempts in shootout style to score a goal on him. If he does, and he'll dye his hair platinum blonde. The recording artist, Justin Bieber, came back to him saying, "Hey, how about if I score on you, it's $10,000 to a charity of my choice." Budweiser came in and offered to double that bet. So let's look forward to Justin Bieber versus Jordan Bennington. And in Jordan Bennington's case, him never say never, or whatever the song is, or baby baby. But regardless, it's really good exposure for the league. And it's funny that Justin Bieber is being a good sport about it. And if something happens where they do go and do this charity event, it's going to bring a lot more money to charities, and that's all that matters. And people hate on Justin Bieber all he wants. He's a talented artist. He hasn't really been in really bad trouble. So him reaching out to the league and kind of bringing more exposure to the league, just joking around, it's fun, and I look forward to seeing this shootout. But go Jordan Bennington.
Yeah, if that happens, I'm gonna laugh. That's funny because everybody makes fun of Bieber because he wears different jerseys, right? They've seen him wearing different ones, and then there's also been the jokes of, well, Canada, you can keep him. No, the U.S., he's yours. All this stuff. So
we're gonna have just one day. Hopefully, that'll be fun. John Gibson in net, a little one-on-one with Drake and Bieber at Honda Center.
Oh God, it's just too funny. But you're right. Whether or not you like him or you hate him, whatever, the bottom line is if it goes down, they're going to be raising money for charity. So that's a huge win, in general. So. Went a little long on this show, but we kind of figured that I had some things to talk about, obviously, with the stuff going on in my personal situation. So I kind of opened up a little bit more on this show than I normally do. And I just want to tell everybody out there that I appreciate all the support that I've gotten in the last 2-3 days. Don't think it goes unnoticed. Some of the people that comment on my personal Facebook, I pretty much liked every single comment that someone sent in there. So if you sent one, I wanted to make sure I acknowledged it, and I just really appreciate it. Moving forward, it's a new year. We'll see what happens with the Ducks the rest of the season. Obviously, Eddie and I will keep on covering it. And just want to let you know that we appreciate all the support we get out there in general. We know that you don't always agree necessarily with something that Eddie says or something that I say. He and I don't necessarily agree. We do most of the time, but sometimes we don't. And so we appreciate that. That's what makes Ducks and Pucks what it is. We use our platform to have you guys weigh in because this is the sport that you guys love. And this is a show for you guys as well. You can ask your questions. I get a lot of them offline, but we'll answer them on here. We do a lot of those poll questions where you guys weigh in, which is very entertaining to see. And I just I appreciate all the different opinions and input you guys do. And just if you're ever gonna have a disagreement with one of us, I'm all for it. Just be civil. That's the only thing I really ask. Other than that, I get it. I'm not always right, and Eddie's not always right. So I appreciate the support. Eddie, if you had any final comments before we wrap this up, I'll turn it over to you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you for saying that, Mike. Yeah, Mike and I don't always agree. We always talk offline for about an hour and a half. Just to prepare for the show, to just get us ready. And there's some things that he might not agree with, or a play that he thinks is different that I think is different, which is okay. That's everyone's right. If you guys ever want to talk to me about something I talked about, something I said, just shoot me a DM. Like the few people that have talked to me, and one guy, I totally forgot your name. I didn't go check it right now in my DM, but you wrote me saying thank you, that I always respond and talk to you and explain things, and I appreciate that. And my whole focus on is not trying to get into anything or focus on any one person. I try to just focus on the Ducks and working on Ducks and Pucks, and trying to make everything better for the fans and everyone that listens to us, because you guys have a choice to listen to whatever you want, your favorite music, watch your favorite sitcom, but you taking the time to listen to the podcast, to go and comment, retweet our stuff, that value, that is so much value to me, and I really appreciate that. So I feel like I have a personal responsibility to just focus and give it my all, to provide that feedback, provide that coverage. And the one day I wake up and I don't feel like giving it 110% as a day, I'm not going to be part of this anymore, because that's not fair to everyone else. That's part of it. It's not fair to Mike or the rest of the Ducks and Pucks team. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And it's 2020. Let's have a great year, and let's just hopefully get some wins. And if not, just have some fun and talk some hockey.
Absolutely. That's the key, is talking hockey and having fun regardless how the Ducks are doing. So we'll be back. We'll try to get more on our regular schedule, but we'll see how it goes with the way the games plan out. And let's go Ducks.